Welcome back everybody. We're now on to step 4. This is the Servo Saver. Let's just move the car to one side. This comes partly assembled. Not everything's been done for you. We have the bell crank, which has got the M3 inserts. I did see a little post from a friend of mine, Stu Cartwright. Somebody's making these little brass inserts in black. Now I've been trying to find a link. If somebody is watching this video can put me in touch with the guy that's supplying these in black, I'd love a set for my car, and I'm sure you FP1 owners would also love one. So we take the little link, carbon fibre link, and we place this with the brass parts to the bottom over the aluminium housing, so that drops over the top, and you take your little button head screw and attach the carbon part to the aluminium holder. So it should look like that. That's the first step. Then take your ball studs and your little spacers, put a spacer on top and pop those in all 3 holes. So you've got 2 ball studs at the front, you've got 2 ball studs at the back. If I can get this one in. So you've got 2 at the front and another one which is the arm that goes to your servo. That one goes in the... oh, where did that go? That one goes in the side. Like so. You've then got 2 bearings. One goes in the top, like that. Flip it over, and another bearing goes in the bottom. Then take your little assembly. You've got 2 washers, a M3, a standoff. Same again. The standoff will come in the next couple of weeks in black, and you'll also have some black washers to go with it, but we'll post those out. So this goes through the chassis from underneath, into the center hole. You see that? There's a hole just in front of the slot for the Servo Saver. So that goes up through there. You then put your 2 washers. Then your spacer. Screw that down. Like so. You've then got a small standoff which goes over the top of that, like so. You put your Servo Saver, your servo support thing, over the top of that, like that, and then in the top you put your little button head screw onto your Servo Saver. Okay, like that. That's the Servo Saver done. Also in the bag you have a couple of turnbuckles. This is your link for your servo. Adjust that to length and fit your servo into the position on the chassis. These slots are done in such a way you can run a small micro servo, a mini servo, or the mid-size shorty servo as I call it. You can pop that into place in there. Okay, so moving on to the front suspension and wishbones. This also comes in 2 or 3 bags. You have your cross member, which is your stiffening bar for the front suspension. 2 wishbones, which we've included the inserts already in to save you an extra job. Fixings, top camber brace, which is set to 1 degree. We will be doing a 1.5 and maybe 2, but they will be coming out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And this bag is for all of your front steering arms and suspension, but we'll go through that shortly. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, right, front suspension. I've just grabbed some damper goo to add to the front kingpins. So if we take the bag for the front suspension and open that as well, in there we have our front springs. Our wheel bearings for our wheels, our steering arms, our stub axles, kingpins, washers and fixings. So we'll go through this in step by steps. So we take one of the wishbones. You'll notice there is a what do we call it, a countersunk on the bottom of the wishbone. That is for the front support bar to be fitted. So first things first, we take 2 button heads out of the packet through the wishbone from the bottom, so the countersunk is the lower part of the wishbone. That goes through and through your kingpin. There's a little hole in the kingpin. You can put little Allen key in there to hold that while you tighten up this screw. Don't put a pair of pliers, anything, onto this shaft, because you'll get a little tiny burr and your suspension won't move up and down freely. So nip that one up. So that's the first one. And then on the other side, the button head again through the wishbone into the kingpin. So you have your 2 wishbones complete with your kingpins on. Next job is to take your spacers. In the spacer bag you'll have some 6s and some 7s. What we suggest to start off with is take 2 of the 6s, which is 6mm, and in the other bag there are a set of caster shims. We do these in 3, 5 and 7. So I don't know if you can see, we have some numbers on them. Let me just remove that. 3.51 is 7 degrees. We do a 2 and a 1, which is 5 degrees, and we very rarely ever go as low as 3 degrees, but these are all available if you wish to play around with setup. But 3.5 and 1 is where we did most of the testing, so that's what we put into the kits. So you take the 4 M3 screws, and they go through your chassis in the 4 holes at the front. Then you take your 6 and 6, you put it onto the front, and then the slot, if you can see that, goes to the front. Same with the wedge, goes on top, that goes in through there and round, so you can adjust your caster and ride height by just undoing the two screws on the side. These slide out, and you can adjust your ride height and your caster by just removing these 2 shims. So we take a wishbone for this one. Let's move some of this to one side so you can get a close up. They go through the wishbone into the threaded brass inserts, and these don't have to be done up like, you don't have to lean on them to be like tight, you just want to nip them so they're tight. So that is how you fix, you see that? And we do that on both sides. So put your insert, pop your wishbone over the top, and the front one. Just nip them up, and you have your front wishbones fixed and your servo saver on. Some people may have guessed there's this hole in here. This is going to be for the mass damper when it's available. Currently out of stock. We're waiting on Schumacher sort of getting them back in stock, and I'm sure all you F1 drivers will be keen to have a go with a mass damper. So I'll put that to one side for a second, and we'll build the front hubs. Got 2 axles. The thicker side of the axle is for your wheel bearings, the other side goes through. You've then got 2 small nylocks which go on one side. Tighten those up. That's one done. And then on the other side, same again. If you can see that. Still getting used to what's left is right and what's right is left on this camera, so excuse me for being a bit juddery. So that's both of the carriers. Then take your ball studs. Ball studs go in the inner hole through the upright, and you put a nylock on the bottom like so. On the other side, you don't have to use the nylock, because the hubs are alloy and they're threaded, but just for safety we've put a nylock in there just to give you that extra bit of support. So pop that one on. Nylock on the bottom. That's your 2 hubs done. You've then got 4 bearings and a wheel nut for your F1 tyres. Just so we don't lose them, we'll put them onto the hubs for now. So all we've got left to do on the front hubs is we'll put them on with the springs, and we'll put the stiffening brace on the next clip. I'll be back shortly. Okay, so we're now going to add the stiffening bars and the top brace to the car. So we get some 6000 silicone damper oil. There's loads of these are available online. I tend to use the core one because it comes in a nice bottle. Doesn't leak, which is good. So we take the spacer, drop 1 spacer over each of the kingpins. We then put some 6000 oil on the underside of the block. So just run it round the edge of that block, and then it will start to drop into that hole. Turn it over, drop it over the top of the kingpin. You'll notice it just drops slowly and has a little blob of oil on the top. So leave that where it is. Take your springs. We'll be doing spring sets for the car. These are Schumacher front springs. They do a whole range of different springs. We'll have those on the site shortly. You put 1 spring over the top of the kingpin. Do the same with the other hub. Tiny bit of oil round the rim. Let it drop into the hole, and then turn it over the top of the kingpin, and it gradually just sinks down. Put your spring over the top. Take your 1 dot, which you can just see, I think there's a little dot just at the front there. That's 1 degree. Put the M3 camshaft screw into the top of the kingpin, and secure both screws through the brace and into the top of the kingpins. Same again, they only need to be nipped, they don't need to be too tight. So you've now got the front end of your car with your hubs on, and suspension should move nice and freely, if you can see that. So last thing we've got to do is we take the 2 small standoffs. These are the same little black spacers that we used for your side links. two M3x6s through your wishbone into the post. Maybe we should have done this before we put the top link on. Probably yes, that would have been an easier thing. So before you put this top brace on, put your two little standoffs onto your wishbones, and it would have been a bit easier to tighten these up. So then you've got your two standoffs. You can see that? Got one there and one on the other side. We've very kindly put two holes in the top of your top link for a screwdriver to go through, because this bar, when we did some testing, we took this on and off and played around with different spring settings and grip settings, so we wanted to make sure this was easy to get on and take off. So it goes with the curve to the front. It goes underneath. You put your screwdriver through the top and you can tighten it into place. Do the same on the other side. And front end is now complete. All we've got to do now is build the dampers, fit the diff, and we're almost done. So we will be back shortly with step number 5.